We are live. This is a very, very special presentation. We're talking to an independence leader in a foreign country. Right now, he'll be with us in a second. But first, let's check out the intro. Okay, now I'm going to apologize right now. George is on a separate continent, so there's going to be some of that coming back and forth, but he was there for a second. So we're going to give some allowance for him to come back in, recognizing that he's on a separate continent and that we have to make some allowance for that. Let's get into it, though. I want to cover a little bit about Western Togoland. So we're going to be covering, one second here, sorry. There's George.
I think I lost you shortly.
No problem. I understand internet issues are going to be an issue, so I'm just going to wait. If you log out, I'll be here. Just come back in. I'm not going anywhere. I'll wait. I understand. So we're started. Let me do a quick intro, and then I'll turn to you, sir. George, thank you for being here. George KORBLA. George KORBLA NYAKPO. Is that close?
Sure.
Okay. We're doing the interview today. George KORBLA NYAKPO is the leader of the Homeland Study Group Foundation for Western Togoland. He's going to be going to the Global Summit on Self-Determination February 2025. Here's another picture of George. I think in your office, that's the Western Togoland picture in the background. This is where you can find a little bit more about George. He's been listed on the Human Rights Council, trying to do some arbitration, seeking independence from Ghana. I got this document from your email, I think. Here is a picture of what we're talking about. Western Togoland with a picture of where it is. So Western Togoland sits currently in Ghana. They want independence. They're a different people. And then in the Black Africa map, you can see the little white spot. That's Western Togoland in the larger picture, and then Western Togoland specifically. Now, part of the reason we wanted to talk to Western Togoland is that they are persecuted. They do not get to have free and fair democratic votes. Here's the news talking about how they have arrested many of the leaders, and they're clamping down on them because they wanted to have a vote. Yeah, secessionists in Ghana arrested over planned May 9th independence declaration. So they were going to say we want to be independent and have a vote. And for that alone, they're arrested, which is not democracy. That's not democracy. So just for everybody in the West watching, if you arrest people and intimidate people because they want to have a vote and make a statement, that's not democracy. That's not fair. The rebellion ignored by the world. There's some pictures of Western Togoland. There's the flag of independence and some signs they've put up. This was the leader, I believe, of Western Togoland. Here's a flyer of the different regions in Western Togoland and why they want to be independent. And then this is some of my favorite. These are flags and signs they put around the area to let people know that they want independence. You can see various support from the youth, from the elderly. Here's an official photo, I think, at a UN meeting. I just love this one picture. It's a young man, and he's just got a shirt that says independence, you know, for us. You can find out more about the group, the Homeland Study Group Foundation, on Facebook. That's the best place to reach them, I think. This is what the page looks like. So go to Facebook. You can type in Homeland Study Group Foundation. Look for that map, and that's the group. We also did some research here from this article and this article. George, how good was that introduction? Just generally to keep everybody up to date. What's missing, sir?
Thank you so much. The introduction was in place. You did your best. Since majority of information that you have is on the internet, I think you are there. The only difference here is that the map as shown, our map historically have been suffering from a system of reduction to claim some resource-rich areas and say they are in the Republic of Ghana. But when you look at the original map that was carved out from the bigger Togoland, you will see that there's a different picture there. So we normally post the real Western Togoland picture or the map as the country was divided in the 1914 war by France and Britain. So aside that, everything is in place in your introduction. So thank you so much.
I appreciate that. I'm trying to find that older map. So you're saying that Western Togoland was larger, but because of colonial wars and infighting and intrigue, it's been the version we're seeing.
When you look at the map that down, I think one of the map that you show in the black image, and the other one there's a coastal area of the Western Togoland, but in most of the map that is posted online, they try to cut it, try to paint an image that you can see this particular one. You see that it's having a coastal community aspect of it. So that is the only thing. There is this issue about Volta Triangle, which I believe we will be talking about in course of our discussion. But generally, by the introduction, you are there and everything is in place. Like you said, Ghana has been a kind of, let me use a very diplomatic word. I don't want to offend many people, but they have been trying their best to silence our voice anytime we raise the issue of Western Togoland. And we have been asking, why will you continue to silence our voice, knowing very well that our country was not part of the Gold Coast business between you and Britain? Gold Coast was created by Britain, and Togoland was not part of the Gold Coast project. It was 1914 that France and Britain launched an attack on Germany in Togoland, a country that has no business with you, with the war happening in the Far Eastern theater. So if you launch an attack on your so-called enemy in a territory that do not also belong to your enemy, they are just being friends, being in a relationship. After they've conquered the land without asking the Togolanders any permission, they divide the land arbitrarily, as if we, the people who are on the land, we are not human beings. They don't care to ask our opinion on whether they should be our colonial master or not. They just jump into it and divide the country after killing many of our population, destroying many of our economic enterprises. So they divide our country without our permission, with the intention of adding it to their various colonies. It took the intervention of the League of Nations to say that, no, this cannot be. So the League of Nations took over the sports territories from them, make laws over it, and reassign them with the responsibility of nurturing the land, the territory, into independence. The clauses state that none of the territory should be added to their already existing colony. That is why France did not add the Dahomey, the French Togoland to Dahomey, but it was left on its own till today. But Britain, on the other hand, was very bent on taking our country and adding it to her Gold Coast colony, an act that many of our people rejected. But anytime the rejection is coming from our side, because we don't have the guns at the moment, Britain will be threatening us with a gun. At the end of the day, they connived with the Kwame Nkrumah regime and stole our country into what they now have today as Ghana. And ever since this independence issue of Ghana came up, we have been protesting. Our forefathers have been protesting. And anytime they protest, they are either arrested, charged, and most of the time, it will take the intervention of the international community to rescue the people from being hanged under an act of treason. In 1975, one of our renowned professors, Professor Awuno, was arrested. And the reason he was arrested was simply because he was speaking about the Western Togoland issue. So you cannot come from your own country and speak about the future of your country. Once you speak about the future of your country, you have to be arrested. This is the situation we are facing in Ghana ever since we are added to this country. Anytime we talk about this, they said we voted in the plebiscite. And what is the plebiscite about? The plebiscite, the purpose of the plebiscite is that the two countries, the state of Ghana and Togoland, should be in union. But Marcus, the question is, ever since Ghana had its independence, did we have our government to sit down so that we ratify any union between Ghana? I have the 8th July 1955 report by the United Nations Special Report. And the mission concluded everything that our country cannot be integrated into becoming Ghana. Whatever the relationship should be, we should be in union. We all know what the meaning of two countries be in the union should be. At least Trinidad and Tobago are there we can point examples to. We also once upon a time have Czechoslovakia, that is now Slovenia and Czech Republic. Why is it that in our case, there is no evidence that after the 1956 plebiscite, the people of Togoland and the people of Ghana sat in any to rectify any agreement? There is nothing. If you check the history of Ghana, you will never hear anything concerning the Togoland. So our country was just absorbed illegally against the decision of the United Nations and also to the in favor of the original intention of Britain to invade Togoland. Something that the United Nations refused them, but they passed through ways and means to include our country arbitrarily into the formation of what we now have as Ghana. And ever since, they made a law that anybody that will speak about Western Togoland, the person should be arrested. So we are in a union. We signed to be in a union, but I cannot talk about my country. If I talk about it, I should be arrested, but I can talk about the Gold Coast and I will not be arrested. This is not fair.
That's what I picked up. That is absolutely what I picked up. Just for the public here, we're showing you a little bit of background. Let me drop this in here. Give me 1 second, George. I think you'll like this. So just to back up what George was saying, this is the Togoland campaign. French and England invaded German Togoland. That's on Wikipedia. That backs up what George is saying if you want to know more. Here's a map of the German, British, French partition. But as George pointed out, this map at the bottom right is more accurate of the actual boundaries of Western Togoland. This is the plebiscite that George was talking about. Let me remove the banner so you can see here. Was Western Togoland territory stolen by Ghana? Just type that in. Togoland plebiscite. Was Western Togoland territory stolen by Ghana? You can find that. George, do you have your permission? I want to cover a little bit of history, and you tell me if how accurate I'm getting this. So, if that's okay.
That's okay.
So here we go. We're gonna because we put together a little bit of a history story just for everybody here, and you tell me how accurate this is. Inhabitants of Western Togoland voted to form a union with the Gold Coast, culminating in the birth of Ghana on March 1957. You're pointing out maybe that vote wasn't democratic or accurate, but that's what they're saying, is that everybody in Western Togoland said, oh, we want to be part of the Gold Coast, which we share no heritage or culture with. And that's just totally on the up and up. That's what they're saying. And I think you guys I've read where your movement's saying that vote wasn't fair. Come on, man. And I'm pointing out 1957 in Africa, countries are learning how to become independent. They're breaking away from the colonial groups. They're starting to do democratic things. And I'm supposed to believe that they held a perfectly democratic vote with no irregularities on the very first time that they did it as a nation. That just seems a little reckless. Kwame Nkrumah, the prime minister, Gold Coast first, he created the Trans-Volta Togoland, which later became the Volta region by welding southwestern Togoland with parts of the southeast Gold Coast. Oh, I forgot this one. Yeah. And then Kwame Nkrumah, the prime minister, Gold Coast second, he fused the northwestern Togoland with north regions of the Gold Coast. So Togoland was supposed to be, Western Togoland was supposed to be somewhat independent, but the very first prime minister of Ghana, I'm saying this, not you, said, oh, let me undo that by rearranging the borders between the traditional Gold Coast and these sections of Western Togoland. So now the section of northern Western Togoland is a joint governance with my government, and the sections of southern West Togoland are now a joint government with a section of my government. When really what the British were talking about, at least initially, was that Western Togoland would have some sort of independent sovereignty, regional independence. The very first prime minister of the Gold Coast, when it became Ghana, made sure to shut that down and treat that not fairly and trick you guys, just so that everyone can follow on. Day one, it was not fair. Thus, this is a quote, at independence, Nkrumah had arguably subverted the envisioned political union and compromised the territorial identity of Western Togoland. Not my opinion, not George's opinion. This is historical fact from other people who studied it. Opponents of Nkrumah's actions, mainly the, George, you're gonna have to correct me. I've been saying EWE. How do you pronounce that, sir?
Ewe.
Ewe. Okay. We're all learning the Ewe people, nationalists of southwestern Togoland regions such as Hohoi, were either exiled, imprisoned, or co-opted. So again, this is from an international news source saying Ewe nationalists wanted independence, and the official government said, okay, you are banned from the country or you go to prison because you want to have a vote and you want to be independent and you feel you have the right to discuss that. Heavily undemocratic. Doesn't stop there. We can move forward to the Volta region, also suffered marginalization under Prime Minister Kofi A. Busia. The length of road construction by the Busia administration was 1.5 miles compared to 72 miles built. So this is going to be a common story for a lot of other independence activists saying it. Here's Western Togoland. They're paying taxes. They're being part of the union. Everybody else gets a bunch of roads made. They get almost no roads made. That's neglect. It doesn't stop there. Water production for Western Togoland dropped by 30% under the Busia administration. So you're already seeing where Western Togoland is being denied roads. They're being denied water. They're being denied basic infrastructure. Already, this is the second guy in charge, and he's already treating them poorly. And then the government's attempt to fight nepotism in public service purged all of the Iwi people. So if you were in government and you were part of Western Togoland, you got expelled from being in government. So you didn't have any representation in the government. You also had your water distribution shut down, and you also didn't get roads. But it doesn't stop there. Chiampong suppressed this movement through direct arrests. He was the next guy in charge. Finally, we get to the Homeland Study Group Foundation, founded by Charles Cormy Kudzordzi in 1994. Merged publicly, thank you. Okay, good. Western Togoland's independence. They did get some recognition by the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Group. However, 2019, the government foiled an attempt by the organization to declare independent, leading to the arrest of 7 masterminds behind the attempt, including Kudzordzi. And just here, I'll remind you guys, here's what they're talking about. These people wanted to announce independence and ask for a vote, and they were arrested for the government for doing what the Western world considers freedom of speech and the right to vote. Those are inherent concepts to democracy. You guys were not treated fair. You were discriminated against. Oh, it even goes on 2018, the inadvertent omission of the region's roads from the 2020 budget. So you had one prime minister who denied you guys infrastructure, then another prime minister comes forward and denies you infrastructure. Oh, then this is my favorite one. In the 2020s, they send the military into Western Togoland to intimidate the voters not to vote. The military says, oh, we're here only for COVID-19. We're not here to suppress the vote. But right after the registration period, the military pulls out, basically proving that the country used the military to intimidate the people from Western Togoland from having a vote. So it looks like you guys even talk about independence. You even mention it, you get arrested. You get arrested for speaking your mind peacefully and asking for a vote. And for that, you're treated as criminals. Am I getting this wrong?
You are right.
That's
you are getting it right.
That's why we're having this summit.
Sure.
Because this is a travesty and this is wrong. And I understand that the United Nations does a lot of good work and they do a lot to help people. But we also notice that there's gaps. I was reading about the English-speaking Cameroon population. They're treated horribly by their government and the UN does nothing. This is kind of a routine story with independence movements. Why has Western Togoland been ignored by the media, by the West? Why aren't more people paying? This is a horrible story. You people were not treated fairly. Why is this not a bigger story in international news, George?
All right. For our case, even when you come to our country here, the media has been censored against the Western Togoland campaign. In the last 4 years, the government launched a special media attack on our issue that even if journalists want to broadcast about even the court cases that are ongoing, the media house will be shut down. So some of the media houses have their license revoked. The radio station was closed down because they are speaking about the issues of Western Togoland that is not being handled carefully. So if domestically we enjoy this kind of serious blackout in the media space, then the international community will not have anything to say at all. We struggle a lot to have our case up there. We struggle a lot, but it is only few ones that you get to talk about. And for the media, I think they are waiting for the situation to get to a very horrible situation. Then they can now come in with their media propaganda around. That is, secessionists have done this, secessionists have done that. Example, in 2020, something happened in our coastal community or the water region, to be precise, where a kind of demonstration happened and the roadblocks took place. There was a number of casualties, and this is what the media is interested in projecting to the international community. They want everything that is negative about the Western Togoland Corps to put to the international community, to paint our movement as a very riot, or as they have their own ways of polishing the image of the country, of our movement, very dirty into the international community. So things that we are doing democratically, peacefully, they are not interested in that. Example, when I was arrested and locked up, the UNPO, together with the Homeless Help Foundation, made appeal at the United Nations Human Rights Council for arbitrary detention. This ruling came out founding Ghana against the rules and demanding from the Republic of Ghana to make changes, release all the people that have been arrested arbitrarily, and drop all the charges. Till today, no media house is taking up that issue. But if we were to launch any form of a resistance right now, that is what the media will pick. So I think the media even though, as they say in government, the media is the fourth organ of the state, they are not doing their work perfectly. And at times too, I don't blame the media, especially the one that we have here. I have media people, my friends in the media, the journalists, who confide in me that they are willing to talk about our issue, but the threat coming from the government is something that is very serious. And they are scared of losing their media houses, media licenses that they practice. And you know, Ghana, the economy of Ghana is so bad that if you lose your job, what are you going to do? So they are also protecting their job. So this is the reason our issues are not getting to the international community. But if you come to the country, you will see the very sharp difference between development as a union country supposed to be as compared to the other countries that are in the same political union as we have. Our country has been totally neglected from all form of development. Ever since we joined this entity called Ghana, there's never any development in our side. We have to beg. There are communities that populations and animals are drinking the same polluted, stagnant water in a country that is supposed to be in union. So if we were to be even in a proper union, we have our government, we can demand some development towards our side. But here, the country was just stolen and added to Ghana, and taxes are collected, resources in our land are being secretly taken away, and they are using it to develop other parts of the country to our detriment. So this is our situation. Now, I want to draw your attention to some documents. That is the report by the visiting mission before the Togoland plebiscite. You know, as you were reading, you mentioned about the plebiscite and all those things. When you check the report by Espinosa, who was the leader of the delegation sent to Togoland, they made a very remarkable statement, which I would like to read.
Okay.
And maybe I have to share this report with you as well. The report is the United Nations General Assembly A/3173, 5th September 1956. So the 11th session, Togoland unification problem and the future of Togoland, of the Trust Territory of Togoland under British administration. Report of the United Nations Plebiscite Commission for the Trust Territory of Togoland under British administration. So we'll go into, I just want to read a part for you so that you understand the situation that
please
we are supposed to be. Now, I'm just jumping to the D aspect, the alternative. It reads, it is well to note in the first place that the question to be put to the voter, and essentially the same ones recommended by the visiting mission in paragraph 105 of each special report. The only fundamental difference being that in the course of the debate in 1955, the word, quote and unquote, integration was abandoned, and the word, quote and unquote, union was adopted in connection with the manner in which Togoland and the United Kingdom administration may choose to join the Gold Coast as an independent state. So even after the plebiscite, the decision that the plebiscite is supposed to bring is that the two countries are supposed to be in union, not to be integrated.
Okay.
So our people voted in 1956. Whether the vote is against the joining Gold Coast or in favor of Gold Coast, whatever the decision should be, the outcome should be that the state of Ghana and the Togoland and the British administration should be in a union, and this is a political union, as other countries have been practicing. But in our case, just immediately the vote was done, all that we saw was a report sent to the United Nations that Britain had formed the union between Togoland and the state of Ghana.
Right.
And our people asked, when did this union took place? Who represents Togoland
Right.
in signing the union?
Right.
Where
A bunch
exactly?
of non-Togoland people, right?
Yes, because we are not just any body at all. It's not just an enclave. It's a whole country with a whole state that needs to have its separate government. In fact, Terazi of Syria was part of the special delegation to the United Nations. When you read his report, he made it clear that before anything should happen in Togoland, Britain and the United Nations must make sure that Togoland have its separate government. Gold Coast will also have its separate government. Then these two governments will now go into the table and sign any form of union that the two countries will enjoy. But here, immediately after the 1956 plebiscite, Britain only wrote to the United Nations that they have formed a union between our countries. Anytime we ask who were the leaders of Togoland and representing the Togolanders' interests in the union, we do not have any answer. And anybody that challenged them, then they have to be arrested and charged. If you are a chief, they have to sack you from the land, and new chiefs have to be installed in your place. This is bringing a lot of problems as we speak. If you go to our north, there's a community in our north called Boku. As we speak, if you check your fact on the, if you check right now, there's a serious community clash that is ongoing. This clash has been there from the very day that the country was made to be part of this entity called Ghana. Since those times, because the original owners of the land refused to be part of the Kwame Nkrumah regime, and some other people have also decided. So there are now two factions. Those that were against Kwame Nkrumah were removed. The landowners were removed, and the CPP loyalists were installed in their place. After the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah, the loyalists came back to have access to their own land, but the new owners has refused them. And since then, there have been clashes upon clashes in those enclaves till today. As I speak to you, the militaries are in Boku right now. And this has been there for the past 60 years. And there's no solution. Anytime the clashes occur, we only see the military going there, coming back, going and coming, and still the situation is still there. So you could see that if we were to be in a proper union, having our own administration, we could have solutions to that particular problem so that there can be peace over there. But the peace has been denied on the people ever since. Now, after the plebiscite, the document that Britain wrote to the United Nations is here. So, with your permission, I would like to read it out.
Yeah, please. What
So,
page
the title, the document is document T/1301.
Okay.
It is quote here, a letter dated 6 March 1957 from the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in the United Kingdom government to the Secretary General, New York, 6 March 1957. The body of the letter reads, in accordance with operative paragraph 3 of General Assembly Resolution 1044-XI of 13th December 1956, I have the honor to inform Your Excellency on behalf of Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom that with effect from midnight of 5th or 6th March 1957, under the terms of the Ghana Independence Act, the territories previously comprised in the Gold Coast became the independent state of Ghana. So that ends there. Then it continues. Under the same act, the union of the former Trust Territory of Togoland under British administration with the independent state of Ghana took place with effect from the same time and date. Signed, Alan Noble, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in the United Kingdom government. So if you read this letter, it is very clear that Britain is informing the United Nations that they have formed a union between Gold Coast and the Togoland. So how do you form a union with two different countries without one party having its government representing their interests with their laws? Because it is the constitution of those people that will determine the kind of relationship they have to form with another entity. So we realized that everything that Britain was doing at the time was just a ploy, a manipulation to foment or to keep their original intention that brought them in dividing or invading the Togoland during the First World War. Nothing apart from that, because this is what the result has been. And this has been their original intention, to make sure that the Togoland is part of their Gold Coast colony. So if at the end of the day, something happened under the watch of Britain and Togoland did not emerge as an independent state, but become part of Ghana, then the original intention, the crime of genocide they committed in Togoland by invading the country and dividing without the authorization of the people, has been achieved. And this is against our fundamental human rights. And we deserve every right to question whatever relationship that we will claim to be in with any entity called Ghana. So this has been our issue.
It sounds like they rigged the vote, and then they just said, well, you know, it's we had a vote and you weren't represented and you weren't there, and we're not going to cover it for you. Just trust us that we did the right thing for you, and everything was on the up and up. And I've seen that with a lot of other independence movements where, like here in California, when California was forced to become part of America, all of the Mexicans and a few black people and a few Asians were denied the right to vote. And then they had a train and they brought white people in, and only the white people could vote. And then all the white people who came to California said, well, of course we want to join America. And they go, see, fair election. Nobody who's Latino, brown skin, black or Asian gets to vote. We brought in all these white people and they said, of course we want to. That's a fair vote. Nobody's ever undone that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it's not fair. It's not right.
Sure. And this is one thing that the international community must take up. Because when you come to Africa, you realize that this injustice is causing a lot of harm to our people. You just talk about the Cameroonian issue. There's the Biafran issue that is there. And all these issues, serious issues, many lives are being lost. It is only in our case that we are trying not to follow the plan of the government of Ghana, because their intention is that anytime they bring the military, we should react in a way that they can base on that and start visiting mayhem in our people. But we always have our plans in place not to entertain any of their violent activities. We believe that it is through the United Nations effort that our country's destiny is now plunged into the Gold Coast. So we believe that with the structures of the United Nations, we can still have our right to be respected. It's just unfortunate that all this while, the United Nations is looking on. Let me put it like that. Because it is, I don't know if they want us to start a serious fight before they can step in, knowing very well that it was their decision that brought us to where we are. The United Nations have the opportunity, after the special mission brought their report, that these people do not have representation. They are per the trusteeship agreement, per the mandate agreement, Togoland is supposed to have its own government separate from the Gold Coast government.
Right.
France was able to do the same thing for the eastern part of Togoland, giving it their own government. They were not using the Dahomey government to rule the Republic of Togo or Eastern Togoland. They were using their own system. They have their own prime minister. Why is it that in the case of Togoland, we don't have our own government, we don't have our own prime minister, we don't have anybody to be representing us before a decision is taken? And when the report by Terazi was communicated to the United Nations, they should have followed up, making sure that Togoland have its own government. Once we have our government, the government will now lead the people into the plebiscite, not Gold Coast campaigners crossing to our part of the country to campaign. Kwame Nkrumah was on record to have entered the Togoland. He held a lot of rallies in Ho. You are not part of us. You are not a Gold Coast. You are not a Togolander. You are a Gold Coaster. You have your political ambition. Why do you have to cross into our side and campaign and form organizations within our country to prevent our people from expressing their view? So the United Nations need to come back to their table. The Decolonization Committee need to come back. If they want peace to reign and the legacies of colonialism should end, they need to go back to the table and correct. And Ghana, for example, is the first country emerging from colonialism. So many mistakes are
exactly
made, which we cannot fault anybody, because that's is like the first product from the prototype. So definitely there may be some issues. So if those issues are being pointed out, it is in the law and for the sake of human rights to come in and correct those things instead of allowing the system to degenerate. Life will be lost, properties will be gone before you now come in. I think that is not the best way to go.
Yeah, I agree. One second, I wanted to show you guys something. Give me 1 second, pull this up. So what's going on in Western Togoland and Togoland under France is not exactly unknown. I wanted to show you and the audience these two articles. I've known about this concept for a while because I've studied the British Empire in depth as a boy. I was fascinated by it. But then I began to learn that, colonialism was quite ugly. It's not. It was presented to us as kind of this fun thing when we were kids, and then you learn it's actually disgusting and horrible.
Yeah.
So turns out the English kind of do this a lot. The way that they were able to keep power, they said, oh no, we got to get rid of our colonies, World War II, democracy. But when England got rid of the colonies, the way that they did it was they would pit the ethnic groups in those areas against each other so that their country was destabilized and then they would have to turn to England for help. The big test case was India. So India said, we want independence. And England said, sure, okay, we'll give you independence. Right after we rip apart your country and turn all your ethnic groups against each other so that you're constantly in a state of warfare and always dependent upon us for help and aid. That's not the only one. Here's another one. This is a study. You can look this up. Heritage of Strife, the Effects of Colonialist Divide and Rule Strategy upon the Colonized Peoples by Richard Morrock. Divide and rule may be classified as the conscious effort of an imperialist power to create and or turn to its own advantage the ethnic, linguistic, cultural, tribal, or religious differences within the population of a subjugated colony. So this is classic English. Oh, did you think you were really going to be independent? Well, you're going to be independent after we wreck your country, turn all your people against each other, leave you a basket case, so you're constantly turning towards us. You might look at the case of the American invasion of Iraq. America pulled out of Iraq, but when it did, it left a basket case of a country that wasn't functional. Then ISIS came in, and then Iraq had to go begging America to come back in and help with ISIS, a condition that America helped create. It's the exact same thing the English do. Oh, I'll leave after I damage your country so much that you're going to come begging me for help. And then I can come back and go, well, you wanted me to come and help colonize you. This is what you wanted. No, it's the condition that I made on my way out the door. I set your house on fire, trashed your table, burnt your kitchen down, overturned all your furniture, and then I left and said, well, it's your house now, and I'm the only guy with a fire hose. So who are you going to call? Me. I'm not a good guy. I created the conditions that led to this. It's disgusting. It happens everywhere. And just to back you up even more, this is what he was talking about. We covered a lot of the horrible history that happened to Western Togoland here, covering different treatments by different prime ministers. What I think George is pointing out is that you don't hear about this history of how they've been mistreated. What you see is newspaper article headlines like this: "Oh, Western Togoland blocks roads. Oh, they blocked roads. Look at those fires." You don't hear about how the military went into the region to suppress the vote, how their vote was rigged in 1957, how they don't get fair road infrastructure, how they're denied water, how members of their ethnic group are purged, how they're not allowed to be part of the government, how their leaders for even expressing interests are imprisoned. That's not international news. Just when a couple rebels who shouldn't have done that, we don't endorse violence. But I get what you're talking about. They go, see these couple of bad apples? Look here. Don't look over here. Don't look here. Don't look over here where the real problem is. And I get it what you're saying. If you don't have Western reporters there, they have to go off the news that comes out of there. And as you're saying, the government intimidates the news and says, well, if you cover this, you could lose your job and your employment in a place where having a job is sometimes a matter of life and death. So it's not like here in America or here in California where you can say, well, I'll get another job and I'll stand. If you have a family to feed, you got to think real hard. Am I going to do the right thing, or am I going to make sure that my daughter and my son eat? That is a tough, tough situation to put someone in. I don't blame people for having to do what they need to do to take care of their families. At the same time, it's wrong. It's just wrong. It's wrong. It's undemocratic. And this is exactly why we hold these forums, because what I'm getting from you is the truth about the situation isn't able to get out of Western Togoland. That's why we're doing this. We're here. They can't stop this broadcast. I don't care what Donna says. They can't touch it. And now I can share it with other English-speaking people outside the loop. We can get the news to people who need to know it, who have been denied that information. Thoughts, feelings, George?
Sure. And this is a very great opportunity for the world to actually know what is happening. And it is even in the interest of everybody, the West and everybody, the Europe and everyone, to know what exactly the situations are. Because we always hear donor funding on issues in Ghana. Recently, there was the Akosombo Dam spillage. And the United Nations is said to have released about some $40 million for the victims. But from the word of the member of parliament, Honorable Samuel Kujetu Ablakwa, the money did not even get to the people. So that money, where did it go? The ECOWAS Community Relief Fund released allegedly about $200,000 or whatever. The MP is everywhere. When you ask, he said that money has never entered the constituency. That was inundated with the flood. So intentionally ignoring the plight of our people to push us into the poverty zone. And when you come to our coastal communities, you realize that something seriously is happening there. The government has deliberately, over the past years, ignored the whole community, and the ocean is taking over the people's home. As we speak, several communities, over 5 kilometer stretch of land has been taken over by the sea. People don't have homes to stay. But these things are not coming into the media. Recently, a month ago, the sea have done the same thing again. And the only thing we could see is the local media houses broadcasting few days, and that's the end. The government did not make it a topic to go into it and solve the people's issues. But if we talk about our issue, they are quick to jump in and say, that's it. 200 million from the ECOWAS. It has nothing. The people do not even see any part of that money. You see. So the international community that are sending donations to Ghana must be interested in everything that is happening in the country, so that they will not blame we who are fighting for our fundamental human rights, an aspect that is enshrined in the laws that Ghana is a party to. Ghana is part of the United Nations Human Rights. They ratify all the treaties, all the covenants. Ghana have signed all those covenants. So why are you not respecting the covenant you have signed yourself?
That's a good question.
Other people in this country are there's always a narrative if you come to Ghana that Western Togolanders are not Ghanaians. They need to be moved out of Ghana. So those who are saying that we are not Ghanaians, they are not arrested. But the moment we say we are not part of the country Ghana, we need to have our own country, then we will be arrested. In the last 4 years, something happened in part of Ghana. Our people who settled in other parts of the country got their homes burned. The whole community full of people from Togoland section, the ever-speaking people, they burned their communities. The coverage is on live television. The security went and burned the whole community. The excuse is that they are Evers. They need to move out from the place and go to their region. The only thing we saw from the parliament was that they select a committee to go and visit the people and see what exactly has happened. And that is the end. No government effort to even form a committee to go and investigate what led to the burning of the people's homes. Nothing. The same 2020, people were going to register and have an ID card that can be used. They claim that everybody should have a national ID card. When our people went to register, they are told that they are Evers, they are not Ghanaians, so they will not be registered. So why is it that some people are calling some people not Ghanaians, and those that are being called not Ghanaians cannot demand for their country? And those that are saying you are not part of us, they are not being arrested. But the people that are being labeled as not part, who are saying that they want to go, are now being arrested and charged with treason, that they want to break their country.
That's a great point. Hey,
it's a serious issue. That
division. Yeah, why is the government not we don't like Western Togoland separatists because they're promoting division in the country. Well, you people saying Western Togoland people are not Ghanaians also promotes division in the country. And so if the government being fair, it should be going after these people too. If it's truly about keeping the country whole and stopping division, then those other people who are saying, oh, these Western Togoland people are not really Ghanaians like us, that's not helpful to Ghana. Where's the government policing their speech? Is that what you're saying?
Sure. They are doing selective justice when it comes to the issues of nationality here. It's a crazy situation, but we cannot speak about it. The moment you talk about it, you should be arrested. You see?
Yeah.
So the international community needs to come into this so that a solution can come in. We, on our own, decided to use the laws of the international system, that is for self-determination, and to peacefully call for our nationality, to our country. But Ghana is bent on crushing our human rights. And this is where the international community that is recognizing Ghana as part of them must come in. The United Nations and other agents, the EU and co, need to come in and rectify this situation, because we are not using any act of violence. It is the same fundamental right that people express elsewhere that we are also expressing. Why is our own being treated this way?
Yeah.
So this is our story.
So if you talk about independence, if you talk about how the vote wasn't done correctly, if you talk about how Western Togoland isn't treated fairly, that's treated as illegal speech and you can be arrested. Yet, if you want to say, I don't like those Western Togoland people and why the hell are they part of Ghana, that's totally cool by the government.
That's cool.
Wow, that seems really biased. Really biased. Wow, that would seem not fair. That would almost be called ethnic discrimination in another
Sure.
situation by the host government, where you're picking a particular ethnic group to deny equal rights to. As you pointed out, Ghana signed the UN Charter. It's not supposed to be doing that at all. It's not supposed to be behaving like that at all. It literally signed a document saying, we recognize the right of all these peoples, and yet it's not doing that. So they're basically lied. They're lying about their allegiance to the UN Charter. Then it sounds like.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's unfortunate.
Um, and just to point out, resources taken from the Western Togoland region, they don't get enough resources back. Uh, and the government doesn't distribute resources, infrastructure equally. We talked about a loss of water, loss of roads. People were denied the right to vote initially and forced into the union, and people are now arrested for even speaking about the situation. And basically, every prime minister in Ghana has treated this area of Western Togoland with neglect, um, if not outright antagonism. So you've never really had a friendly home government since day one. You've never really been treated fairly, and your region has been denied resources and had whatever resources it had sucked out. That does not sound like the way countrymen should treat fellow countrymen. It sounds more like you're a subjugated territory, and they're all about taking whatever they can out of there, and who cares what happens to you guys over there. Thoughts, feelings? Yeah. Anything else, George? Have we not covered something that's key in this story?
No, we have covered everything. All that is left now is the situation about the people who are being detained, the way the legal system is also skewed against our people. When investigators took our people to court, they don't have any evidence on the charges that they even arrest the people for. But
Okay.
they will just delay the people in the court for several months. Then they will just come in and rule that they are sentencing these people.
So when people were charged, the government seemed to play games, was part of it. And um, so they're not, yeah, listen, Western Togoland independence leaders arrested. Oh, here we go. Oh, this is nice. So this is something that includes George's name. Let me put this up there. Give me 1 second. George will be back in a second. We talked about this, but I do want to point out something that he was speaking about. Here we go. So this is what he's talking about. The unrepresented nations and peoples organizations express a serious concern over the recent arrests and detainment of George NYAKPO, Secretary of the Homeland Study Group Foundation, that we're interviewing him now. George NYAKPO was recently detained by Ghana's national security forces without formal charge, presumed to be in relation to activities supporting Western Togoland independence. The detainment follows a wave of arbitrary arrests and detentions orchestrated by Ghana authorities in recent years against the Homeland Study Group Foundation leadership for the movement's activities pursuing self-determination for the peoples of Western Ghana. And the other interesting thing is that Ghana signed the UN Charter. The UN Charter says that you must be open to people pursuing self-determination. And yet here is Ghana, a member of the UN, who signed the charter, who's standing in the way of people pursuing self-determination. See how that works? let's look into this wave of arbitrary arrests. Give me 1 second here. I'm sure George will be back in a minute. Western Togoland members jailed for 5 years. Let's look at that real quick. Give me 1 second here. George will be back with us in a second. Oh, there he is. So there's George. He's back.
Yeah.
We got you. We're winding down, but I found this article, George, and I think you may find that the Unrepresented Nations and Peoples Organization expresses serious concern over the recent arrest and detainment of George NYAKPO, who was arrested without formal charge. That's incredible. They just admit it right there. They just arrested you and didn't charge you with anything. Wow.
You know, I was arrested on the 14th of July 2021 and taken in charge. After I was kept for several days before I was taken to court and was remanded. For 6 months, I was staying with the state, and later I had my bail. We launched this case at the United Nations special, the United Nations Arbitrary Detention Council for them to intervene. They did intervene in our case, and they communicated the issue to the government of Ghana to implement. Till today, the government is not able to implement the outcome of the decision.
Give him a second. He'll be right back. In the meantime, here's a picture. Western Togoland separatist groups members jailed for 5 years each. This is what he's talking about. So, you know, he was charged. He was imprisoned without charge. And it followed a wave of arrests for pursuing self-determination. This is one of the people who was arrested. I mean, to me, this looks like an old man. He does not look like a security threat. He doesn't even look like he's been in a soldier or anything. This looks like an old man who was trying to talk about freedom. And for that, he got 5 years in jail. So that's, you know, what it is. Let's see if we can find Western Togoland leaders arrested. Oh, you're back. We're winding down, but I got this picture of, you know, 5 years for someone pursuing independence gets arrested. Wow.
I was talking about the condition of the foundation, the Homeland Security Foundation. The foundation was charged for, or we were charged for belonging to a prohibited organization. Now, the Homeland Security Foundation is a registered organization under the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana in 2006. The foundation existed since 1994. In 2006, we decided to register the foundation under the laws of the Republic of Ghana. From 2006 up to 2017, there have never been any issue of our foundation being arrested or any member arrested and charged for belonging to a prohibited organization. All of a sudden, the government arrested our people for the first time in 2017 that they were wearing a t-shirt where we wrote Western Togoland and draw the map of West Togoland and Ghana on it. That on the 9th May we are going to declare. We said that no, we are not saying we are declaring West Togoland on 9th May 2017. The people who lost their lives, those who refused that their country should be added to Ghana at the time, in Alavanyo, Pando, and Hojo, the Nkrumah government sent militaries there, and many of them were killed. The soldiers went and killed many of the people because the people were arguing that if you said we voted to join you, then there should be a union before the Ghana flag is hoisted in their territory. This is the offense the people committed. So long as you didn't have a union, you cannot bring your flag to our territory. This is their offense. And the military were released from Accra to go there and crush them, and they did that. So every year, 9th May, we hold ceremonies for these people to pray for their soul. But we were arrested and charged for several months. The government sent a case of treason to the High Court. They were not able to establish their own charges until the case was brought to an end. They continue arresting until finally, when they realized that there's no charge again to use on us, they went and revived an unused law, which is the prohibited organization that was dormant since 1976, that it was passed by the Achampo regime. And this prohibited organization has totally violated every clause of the Ghanaian constitution and every covenant that Ghana has entered internationally. So the government was told to repeal that law, release the people, and set everything. But they still maintain the law in the constitution and charging the Homeland Security Foundation for belonging to a prohibited organization. We have been asking them, what prohibits the Homeland Security Foundation? When was the foundation prohibited? Because we still have the certificate of registration and commencement of the organization since 2006. And there's no law, no court has ever proscribed the foundation and have banned its activities. So you realize that even the prosecutors themselves, it appears they don't even know the law that they are even using. Because how do you prosecute an organization that is registered under your own constitution? And there's no evidence anywhere that this organization is a prohibited organization. The article that they are using is dated 1976. The Homeland Security Foundation came into being in 1994 and registered in your own constitution in 2006. So it cannot be that the article is a new law that is being used to prohibit a particular group before we continue doing what we are doing. So you realize that there is just a game, an orchestration, a plan set out by the government, a political witch hunting system just targeting the Western Togoland campaign and nothing else. So this is the situation. Yeah, so you can see the radio tongue shutting down because of the Homeland Security Foundation. So a radio station that whose mandate is to educate and inform and entertain the population, you close it down for talking about a situation that is happening in the country. So indirectly, you are denying the population of knowing the good, the bad, and the ugly part of the country that is happening, which is their right to hear, to know. But once you shut the media, it means you don't want the people to hear what is going on. So you are committing a crime, because it's only those who commit crime that try to hide traces of what they are doing from the public. So this is the situation. Hello, Marcos. Are you with me?
Sorry, I had myself on mute. Sorry, George. Yes. So this is showing that there were 60 members of the Homeland Study Group that were released. So 60 members were released. That sounds great, but they were arrested. And the government of Ghana could not explain why they arrested them in the first place. Same thing that happened to you, George. They just do these arrests and they don't say why you guys are arrested. That sounds like arbitrary arrest. Just, we don't like what you did. What you did is not illegal, but we don't like it, so we're just going to arrest you to intimidate you from exercising the rights that Ghana has signed a treaty with the United Nations to respect and is violated.
So that's the exact picture over there, because many a times when the people are arrested, they are not even told what exactly their crime is. You will not be told your crime. They will just say, for talking about Western Togoland, that is the case, that is your crime. Whether you talk about Western Togoland peacefully or anyhow, it's just a crime to mention the word Western Togoland in Ghana.
You're not allowed to have free speech. You're not allowed to express opinion. You're not allowed to debate government performance. You're not allowed to point out how you guys are treated, mistreated, and you're not allowed to point out how votes in the past were wrong. Doesn't sound like a democracy. As I understand, Ghana's listed as a democracy. Is that correct? Ghana, oh, here we go. No, this is going to be great. You're going to love this. Here you go, George. Give me 1 second and I'll show it to you. One second. Here you go. This is for you. You're going to love this. You know, George, I believe you. You seem like an honest man. I'm kind of joking here, but George, when I look online, the United States government tells me that Ghana is a stable, democratic country, successful political transition, a free press, an active civil society, and independent judiciary. George, that sounds like the opposite of what you're telling me. Who am I supposed to believe?
So if the United States aid is saying this, the U.S. Agency for International Development is saying this, then what would they tell the United Nations Human Rights Court? Because the Human Rights Report is there. In 2022, there was a UPR, Universal Periodic Review, that reviewed Ghana's democracy credentials. And they were cautioned again that the issue of Western Togoland must be addressed, as the United Nations Human Rights on Arbitrary Detention have said. So the U.S. Agency for International Development should now come and tell us all these beautiful things they said about Ghana.
Let's give George a second. He'll come back in. That's the point, is that there's a discrepancy between the truth and what you're being told. We've seen this before. People lied about CalExit. We've seen them lie about the Texas Nationalist Movement, etc. It's not unknown for governments to help other governments lie about independence movements in the country. I just wanted to show everybody how misinformed the whole planet is, and how a lot of people who are supposed to be doing better are in on it. So USA aid is supposed to be for democracy around the planet. Why are they saying that Ghana has a free press and an active civil society? We literally just showed you where Ghana is not having a free press. They're shutting down newspapers and anyone who talks about the Homeland Study Group. They do not have an active civil society. These are activists trying to speak and protest, and they are arrested. for 5 years, and they do not have an independent judiciary because these people were arrested by the police state based upon no law. There was nothing given as to what law they broke, but they were still arrested by the judiciary. So, see, George is back. So I'm pointing out that Ghana is not a democratic country. It does not have a free press. You cannot shut down press agencies for covering something until you have a free press. You cannot say you have an active civil society when people want to protest and declare independence and have a vote, and you arrest them for 5 years. You can't, and you cannot say that you have an independent judiciary when you arrest multiple independence leaders without charges and hold them in the justice system. That is a failure of the independent judiciary. So Ghana is not a free press, not an active civil society, and not an independent judiciary. Although if you looked online, you wouldn't know any better. Again, why we have to have these summits. This information, this truth is just not getting out. I found a lot of the truth, but I had to look for it. They're not alone. Here's Freedom House. Relatively strong record of upholding political rights and civil liberty. The only discrimination that exists in Ghana, George, is against women and gay people. No discrimination against ethnic groups happens in Ghana, according to Ghana has a strong record of supporting political rights and civil liberties. So, USA Aid got it wrong. Freedom House got it wrong. Why is everybody lying about the situation in Ghana?
So they are painting the internet image of the country. I always say it like that. So the outlook needs to look beautiful, but inside it's just like a coffin, you know. Every coffin looks beautiful until you open it, then you know the content. So anytime this issue of Ghana is a democratic country and those things, I don't argue with those who come up with that. The only thing is that I point out to you that these are the issues. So you said Ghana is a democratic country. This is the report by the United Nations peer review. The United Nations UPR, I am not the one who speaks. It is their own peers that speak on their issue. So what have they found out about Ghana's democracy? This is what they found out. What did the United Nations Human Rights Council, which is, let me say, a court, say about Ghana's decision on democratic issues? This is the outcome. So these are the documents that are available. These are the facts from those recognized organizations that are available. So if you are now telling me that Ghana is a free press and I have media houses being shut down because they are speaking about a call for self-determination, then whatever motivates you to say Ghana is a free and democratic country is best known to you.
I don't know, because you're right. It's public news. You shut down a news agency for reporting on Homeland Study Group. You've imprisoned leaders for 5 years on no charges. That's being admitted, and yet somehow you have a free press and active civil society when we know for a fact online that people are being arrested and the press is being shut down. So I find this fascinating because the information is out there online, and yet USA Aid and Freedom House can't get it right. And a lot of Americans rely on that, and they're just misinformed. Once again, why I wanted to talk to you personally and why I was of the opinion that the truth on the ground is not actually known by most people outside of Western Togoland. They are being lied to. They are being told a story that's not true about the situation there. We'll leave it there, George. I know you're a busy man. Any last comments? Was there something you wanted to leave the group with? Anything you'd like to say about Western Togoland or about independence movements being ignored from the recognition they deserve?
Yeah, so what I want to say finally is that as I congratulate everybody for having time for us, I would like to say that Western Togoland is a great country that they are trying to make sure it does not exist any longer. But it will take all of us to make sure that that agenda does not materialize, because we are all humans and we deserve our right to belong to a country and call it our own. nobody's destiny is tied with another. That without the existence of one person, one country, the other one will not exist as a country. That cannot be the case. West Togoland has a very beautiful environment. In fact, our country is endowed with a lot of natural resources, and we have a very conducive environment for agriculture. We have a double maxima of rainfall throughout the year. Our country has so many mountains, there are rivers everywhere. So it's a place that anything that a country needs to survive is existing in. In fact, some of the reports that we read from Britain states that if Togoland did not join Ghana, Gold Coast will collapse, Ghana will collapse. So they have to make sure that our country is added to them. In fact, in 1952, when Britain was planning all these things, they have a document called the Most Secret. And they state in that document that the Gold Coast is enjoying a lot of facilities from the Togoland to the detriment of the Togoland. And if the United Nations got to find out, they are going to make a huge case against the call for Togoland to be part of the country. That even the River Volta, the Akosombo River project, the hydroelectric project, will not be possible if the country do not join Ghana as one country. So Britain, in its own report, admits that the colony of Gold Coast or Ghana is enjoying more from our land, that they must not do anything to make sure that we have our country separate from them, but they have to do everything for the country to be part of them. So if all these things are there, it is just a deliberate attempt to deny our nationality, to just push us where we are so that they continue taking our resources and developing the outside. So I enjoy everybody, anybody at all. We are open for investment. We are open for partnership. All countries that are also in the same situation that we are, we need to work together so that if we have our country, we can better form alliances and business-wise relationship with our country so that we can also survive on our own. Because we are in a particular part of the world that you can see even already existing territories or countries are fighting one another. Things are not going onward. So if those who are coming out as countries, we need to start forming that alliance so that we can become very strong and change the destiny for our people. So West Togoland is open for everybody that is having the interest of self-determination at heart. Thank you.
George, thanks for coming out. We'll end it there. I'll email you a copy of the video. We will be promoting this here. You can promote it there. And we'll end it here and we'll send you a copy of the video. Thanks for coming out. And of course, we're going to see you. This was an introduction for. We'll see you guys soon. George, thanks for coming out. We'll email you a copy of the video soon, and thank you.